The entire alien medical chamber fell silent the moment the human soldier stepped inside, not because he was powerful, but because he was not supposed to matter. A human. In the royal healing wing of the Valaris Empire, a place where gods of medicine debated nerve reconstruction across star systems. And yet they had called him anyway, because the princess had not walked for 7 years. And every alien cure had failed. Thatcher felt it immediately, the weight of 100 staring species pressing against his skin. His boots clicked on polished crystal floors that shimmered like frozen lightning. Above him, medical drones hovered like nervous insects, scanning his every breath. A glowing orb floated down beside his shoulder. "Greetings, human," it chirped brightly. "I am your emotional support unit. You may call me Lumisphere. I have been trained in 14 forms of comfort. Resistance is statistically pointless." Finn blinked once, then twice. "Do I get a choice?"
No.
It stuck itself to his shoulder. Somewhere ahead, a whisper spread through the chamber. "That's him. The human medic? Barely looks trained for gravity." Finn ignored it. He had seen war zones where planets burned in silence. Politics was just another kind of battlefield, one where no one bled immediately. But this place felt different. Alive. Watching. Judging. Then the doors opened, and reality changed shape. A sudden pressure rolled through the chamber as royal guards stepped aside. A hovering throne drifted forward, suspended by anti-gravity fields that hummed like distant storms. On it sat Princess Kalin, blue skin glowing faintly under bioelectric light. Long ears angled backward, not in weakness, but irritation. Golden hair spilled across her shoulders like molten threads. But it wasn't her beauty that froze Finn's breath. It was the silence around her legs. They didn't move. Not at all. A healer beside her whispered urgently, "Princess Kalin refuses stabilization procedures again. Neural feedback remains unstable." "Enough," she said sharply. Her voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Her eyes locked onto Finn. "You are the human." Finn hesitated. "Yes, Your Highness." "You will fix what they could not." No greeting. No mercy. Just certainty and something darker beneath it.
Hope.
Finn stepped closer, scanning her biosignals through a handheld interface. Alien diagnostics flooded his screen, complex, fragmented, contradictory. Words like irreversible degeneration, neural silence cascade, and unknown adaptive resistance flashed in warning red. Then something unexpected appeared. Residual nerve activity.
Small. Weak. But alive.
Finn frowned. "You are not fully destroyed," he muttered. That earned him silence from the entire room. Princess Kalin tilted her head slightly. "Explain." Finn looked up. "Your nervous system didn't die. It shut down, like it's waiting." A ripple moved through the royal observers. A counselor scoffed. "Waiting? That is not a medical term." Finn didn't look at him. It is when the body refuses to accept loss. For the first time, Kalin's expression changed. Not hope. Interest. She leaned forward slightly. "And can it be awakened?" Finn should have said no. Every alien doctor before him had said no. But human medicine didn't grow from certainty. It grew from refusal. "Yes," he said quietly. The chamber reacted instantly. Whispers. Shock.
Doubt.
Even Lumisphere vibrated nervously. Warning. Optimism detected. Historically leads to emotional instability. Finn ignored it, because Princess Kalin was staring at him like she had just heard the word freedom for the first time in years. And something in her voice broke when she asked.
"How?"
Finn exhaled slowly. "We start by convincing your nerves they're not dead." Silence. Then laughter. Sharp, disbelieving, alien. But Kalin didn't laugh. She only said one thing. "Try." The first session was supposed to take 15 minutes. It lasted 3 seconds before the entire chamber realized something was wrong. Finn placed a neural interface along her lower spine. Careful, precise, human-designed. The moment activation began, the system screamed. Not in failure. In response. Her dormant nerves flickered like distant stars waking up after extinction. Princess Kalin gasped. Not from pain. From sensation. Her fingers clenched the armrest of the throne so hard the metal bent slightly. "Stop," one of the alien physicians shouted. "You are destabilizing." "Wait," Finn said sharply. He was staring at the readouts. Impossible readings. Not healing. Reconnection. Like something inside her had been waiting for permission to remember itself. Kalin's voice shook. "What is that?" Finn leaned closer. "That's your body answering back." Her eyes widened slightly. For the first time in 7 years, something moved. A toe. Barely a millimeter. But it moved. The chamber erupted into chaos. Medics shouting. Drones recalibrating. Counselors stepping back in alarm. But Kalin didn't look at any of them. She looked at Finn. And whispered something no one expected. "Do it again." Finn froze. Because in that moment, he realized something terrifying. This wasn't just treatment. It was ignition. And once started, there was no guarantee it could be stopped. That night, the palace sealed the chamber. Not for safety. For observation. Finn stood alone outside the glowing doors while alien officials debated behind layers of reinforced glass. Luma's fear floated beside him. Emotional analysis. Human confidence has increased by 34%. Recommendation: reduce ambition immediately. Finn ignored it again, because through the glass he could see her. Princess Kalin sitting still in her throne. Waiting. Watching. Not like a patient anymore. Like someone standing at the edge of a cliff, about to decide whether to fall or fly. Then her gaze shifted. Directly to him. And she smiled. Not a royal smile. Not a ceremonial one. Something far more dangerous. Hope with intent. The lights in the chamber flickered. Her fingers twitched again. More than before. And then, the system alarm screamed. Neural response spike detected. Finn stepped forward instinctively. But the doors locked instantly. From inside the chamber, Kalin's voice came through the intercom.
Calm.
Focused.
Alive.
"Human," she said softly. I just remembered how to feel my legs again." A pause. Then the system logs exploded in error. And the chamber went dark. The alarms did not stop. They multiplied. Red light flooded the sealed chamber like a living thing, crawling across crystal walls, pulsing through every corner of the royal medical wing, as if the palace itself had begun to panic. Neural overload detected. Bioelectric convergence unstable. Princess vital response. Rapid fluctuation. Finn stood frozen outside the glass doors. Inside, Kalin was still sitting. But not still anymore. Her fingers moved. Slowly. Deliberately. Like someone rediscovering a forgotten language written into their bones. "Open the doors," Finn said sharply. A guard stepped in front of him. Human access revoked during instability event. Finn didn't argue. He grabbed the man's wrist, pulled up the diagnostic feed, and shoved it into view. "Look at the neural pattern. This is not collapse. It's synchronization." The guard hesitated. Because the data didn't make sense. Inside the chamber, Kalin suddenly inhaled sharply. Her legs moved. Not fully, but enough. Her heel lifted from the throne's support field, hovered for half a second, then dropped back down. The entire medical team went silent. Because that should have been impossible. 7 years of neural silence. And now this? Luma's fear vibrated violently on Finn's shoulder. Probability anomaly increasing, it chirped, voice glitching. Human involvement now classified as either miracle or catastrophic error. Finn ignored it, because Kalin had turned her head toward the glass. And she was smiling. Not politely, not weakly, but like someone discovering fire inside their own body. "Finn," her voice crackled through the chamber speakers, "it feels like lightning under my skin." He stepped closer to the glass. "Can you control it?" She hesitated, then tried. Her left leg lifted again. Higher this time. Trembling. Unstable.
Alive.
Gasps erupted behind Finn as alien physicians rushed forward. "Stabilize her," one shouted. "Stop the sequence." But Kalin raised her hand. "Do not interfere." The chamber froze. Even the machines obeyed. Because she had spoken like royalty again. Not broken. Not recovering. Commanding. Finn's voice softened. You're overloading your neural pathways. We need to slow down. Kalin's ears flicked. Then she laughed. A short, breathless sound. Slow, she repeated. After 7 years of being told to stop completely? She shifted again. This time both legs responded. Her body lifted slightly from the throne's support field. For a fraction of a second, she was standing. Then she collapsed back down. But she was shaking. Not from failure. From exhilaration. I felt it, she whispered. I felt all of it. The chamber erupted again. This time not in panic. In disbelief. A counselor shouted, "This violates every known principle of the Valaris Codex." Another replied, "There is no precedent for neural resurrection." Finn finally turned. "Then update your precedent." Silence followed. Heavy. Uneasy. The doors hissed open behind him. A senior medical overseer stepped forward, voice cold. "Human, step away from the patient. You are destabilizing Imperial medical authority." Finn didn't move. "She is not destabilized," he said. "She is waking up." The overseer frowned. "That is not possible." From inside the chamber, Kalin's voice cut through everything. "Then watch me make it possible." And she tried again. This time she didn't fall immediately. Her legs held, trembling, shaking violently under unseen strain, but holding. 1 second.
2.
3. The support throne alarm screamed and disengaged automatically, because her body was no longer using it. She was standing. Not perfectly, not safely, but standing. The entire chamber went silent so fast it felt like sound had been removed from the world. Kalin looked down at her feet like she didn't believe they belonged to her. Then whispered, "I am standing." Finn's throat tightened. "Yes," he said quietly. "You are." Something broke in the room. Not glass. Not metal. Something far more fragile. Certainty. A junior medic stepped back, covering their mouth. Another dropped a tool entirely. Even the counselors had no immediate words, because they had not just witnessed healing. They had witnessed reversal of impossibility. Kalin took one careful step. It wobbled. Her entire body shook. But she did not fall. Finn moved instinctively closer to the glass. "Don't push too hard," he warned. She looked at him, and something changed in her expression. Not fear. Not dependence. Decision. "I have been still for 7 years," she said. "If I fall now, I fall forward." Then she took another step. Stronger. More stable. A third followed immediately. The chamber broke into chaos again, but different now. Not panic. Overwhelming reaction. Drones spun in celebratory error loops. Medical systems flagged emotions as non-diagnostic anomalies. Someone actually laughed out loud and then stopped, confused by their own reaction. Lumisphere glowed brighter. "Emotional spike detected," it announced. "Human influence confirmed as primary catalyst." Finn barely heard it, because Kalin had reached the center of the chamber, and she turned slowly in place. Testing balance. Testing gravity. Testing life. Then she laughed. Louder this time.
Real.
Unrestrained. "I forgot this," she said. "I forgot what it meant to own the ground you stand on." Finn exhaled slowly. "That's because no one let you try." Her gaze locked onto him. And for the first time, it wasn't patient and healer. It was equal. "You did," she said softly. Finn shook his head.
No.
"I just gave your body the chance." She stepped closer. Closer to the glass. Until her palm pressed against it. Finn raised his hand on the other side. Same place. Same moment. Separated by reinforced energy and centuries of species distance. Yet it felt smaller than breath. "You will be questioned for this," she said. "I know," Finn replied. "You will be blamed." "I know." A pause. Then her voice softened. "Then stay anyway." Finn didn't answer immediately, because behind him, the palace was no longer watching him as a medic. It was watching him as a disruption, a possibility, a problem that refused to stay small. And Kalin was still standing, barely, but standing. Then, the alarms changed tone. No longer medical. No longer internal. Escalation. External signal interference detected. Every head in the chamber snapped upward. A holographic projection ignited above them. Multiple signatures. Unknown ships. Entering orbit.
Fast.
Too fast. The sky above Valaris was no longer calm. It was breaking. Dark shapes cut through the upper atmosphere like knives through silk, their engines silent, their presence heavier than noise. Every sensor in the palace screamed the same warning. Hostile fleet confirmed. Inside the royal medical chamber, the celebration of Kalin's first steps had already turned into something else. Something sharper. Something dangerous. Finn stood near the glass wall, watching the holographic projections flicker across the chamber ceiling. His reflection overlapped with Kalin's standing figure on the other side of the room, two realities learning to exist at the same time. She was still on her feet.
Barely.
But she was not sitting anymore. And that alone was enough to change everything. Lumisphere hovered between them, its usual cheerful tone gone. Probability outcome update, it said quietly. Recovery success confirmed. Political destabilization now at 87%. External threat increases conflict probability to critical threshold. Finn exhaled. So perfect timing, he muttered. Kalin turned her head toward the sky projection. She didn't look afraid. She looked focused. What are they? She asked. Finn studied the data feed. Not local. Not imperial. Their signature matches the Voron Syndicate scouts, but larger formation. Kalin's ears tilted. So they came early, she said. Finn frowned. You were expecting them? She took a slow step forward. It wobbled less this time. I was expecting consequences, she corrected. Progress always attracts attention. Outside, the first defensive shields of the palace activated. A deep blue dome spread across the skyline like a protective breath. Distant impacts began to flash against it, silent explosions bending light rather than sound. The invasion had begun, and the palace was still deciding what Kalin was. Patient or asset or liability. A council emergency channel opened behind Finn. The same overseer from before appeared in hologram form. This situation is beyond medical jurisdiction, the overseer declared. Human medic Finn Thatcher is to be detained for interrogation. Princess Kalin is to be secured under stabilization protocol immediately. Finn turned slowly. You want to lock her back down? He asked. The overseer didn't hesitate. Her condition is unstable. External stress may reverse recovery. The risk is unacceptable. Kalin heard everything. She didn't look at them.
She looked at Finn.
And waited. That was new. She was not asking to be saved anymore. She was waiting to see what he would do. Finn's hand tightened. He had walked into this palace as a guest medic. A background figure.
A tool.
Now he was standing in the middle of something far larger than medicine. He looked at the council projection. Then at Kalin. Then at the sky burning above them. And made his decision.
No, he said.
The overseer blinked. Clarify your refusal. Finn stepped closer to the glass. You are not resealing her, he said. You are not reversing this. She is not a patient anymore. She is mobile. She is stable enough to stand. That makes her autonomous. A pause. Then cold authority. Human, your classification does not grant. Kalin interrupted. Her voice cut clean through the chamber. I will not be placed back in that throne. Silence. Even the alarms seemed to hesitate. She took another step. This one steady. Deliberate. And then another. Closer to the glass. Closer to Finn. I have spent 7 years being told what I cannot do, she said. Today I learned what happens when someone stops agreeing with that. Her eyes narrowed. And I am not going back. The council projection flickered. Outside, another impact struck the shield dome. Harder this time. The palace shook faintly. Time was running out. The overseer spoke again. Urgency rising. The palace is under external threat. This is not the time for personal.
Finn cut in.
It's exactly the time. He turned fully to face the projection. She moves better every minute. Her nervous system is responding in real time to stimulation and intent. If you sedate her now, you erase progress. If you restrain her, you undo the only successful neural recovery in your empire's history.
A pause.
Then Kalin's voice, softer now. Finn. He looked at her. She was standing at the glass again.
Closer this time.
Almost close enough to touch, without hesitation. If they take you away, she said quietly, I stop walking. That hit harder than any alarm. Finn didn't answer immediately, because outside, the sky burned again. And inside, something far more fragile was forming.
Trust.
Not the medical kind. The irreversible kind. He stepped closer. So don't let them, he said. Kalin studied him for a long moment. Then something changed in her expression.
Acceptance.
She nodded once. Then we don't ask permission anymore. The chamber lights flickered. Emergency alerts escalated. Breach phase 2 detected. The council projection vanished abruptly. Communication cut. The palace was going dark on command. Lockdown protocol. But Finn noticed something else. The doors behind him were locking. Not outward. Inward. Sealing him inside with her. He turned sharply. You just locked me in? No answer. Lumisphere vibrated. Containment protocol initiated. Human classified as critical influence node. Finn exhaled. Of course I am. Kalin stepped closer to the glass. Then you are not leaving, she said. Finn met her gaze. No, he agreed. I'm not. Another impact shook the dome above them.
Closer now.
The battle outside was reaching the palace itself. And inside the chamber, a princess who had not walked in 7 years stood on trembling legs beside a human who was no longer just a medic. Kalin took a deep breath, then looked toward the sealed doors.
Finn, she said.
If I fall. You won't, he interrupted. A pause. Then she smiled faintly. That is a very human answer. Outside, a section of the shield dome finally cracked. Light spilled through like a wound in the sky. Alarm screamed across the empire. And Kalin stepped away from the glass. One step, then another. Not perfect, but forward. Finn moved beside her instinctively. Ready, he asked. She glanced at him. I've been ready for 7 years, she said. I just forgot how to move. Then she took another step. Toward the sealed world. Toward the war above them. And Finn realized something with absolute clarity. He had not just helped her walk again. He had taught an empire what happens when something they called impossible decides to stand up anyway. The palace was no longer a palace. It had become a battlefield wrapped in glass and light. Above them, the shield dome fractured again, this time not as a warning, but as a failure. A jagged tear opened across the sky, and foreign ships poured through like falling shadows. The Voron Syndicate had arrived fully. Not scouts anymore. Not probes. A cleansing force. Inside the corridors, alarms no longer gave instructions. Only noise. Panic translated into systems that could no longer keep up. But in the sealed medical wing, something very different was happening. Princess Kalin stood. Still unsteady. Still rebuilding every second of balance. But she was standing without the throne now. No support field. No restraint. Only her legs, trembling with effort, and refusing to give up. Finn stood beside her. Not behind. Not ahead. Beside. Lumisphere hovered near his shoulder, flickering between calm analysis and emotional overload. Warning, it whispered. Structural collapse probability, rising. Survival probability, uncertain. Human involvement still statistically confusing. Finn almost smiled. Good, he muttered. That means it's working. A deep explosion shook the palace again. The floor cracked faintly. Kalin steadied herself. Her breath was heavy, but controlled. They are breaking through lower defenses, she said. Finn checked a handheld interface. They're targeting command centers. Not random. They want leadership control. Kalin's eyes narrowed. No, she corrected softly. They want obedience. Another impact. Closer this time. A corridor wall shattered in the distance. Security forces were losing ground. And then something changed. Kalin took a step forward. This one did not tremble as much. Then another. Finn watched her carefully. Your neural feedback is spiking again. I know, she said. Then stop pushing. Kalin looked at him, not as a patient, not as royalty, as herself. If I stop now, she said, I go back to being carried instead of standing.
A pause.
Then she added, I am done being carried. Another explosion rocked the palace. The ceiling lights flickered violently. Finn made a decision. Then you don't stand alone. He stepped forward into the open corridor. Kalin followed. Each step she took echoed louder than the war around them. Not because of sound, because of meaning. A princess who was never supposed to walk again was walking toward an invasion. And not stopping. As they entered the central atrium, the scale of destruction became visible. Drones fell like broken stars. Armored alien forces moved through corridors with precise, emotionless coordination. But then they saw her.
Kalin. Standing.
Walking.
Alive.
Even the invaders hesitated for a fraction of a second. Finn didn't waste it. They're disoriented, he said quickly. They didn't expect her mobile. Kalin took another step forward. And they didn't expect you, she added. Finn glanced at her. I'm just a medic. She shook her head slightly. No, she said. You are the reason I remembered I could stand. Something in her voice shifted. Not weakness. Resolve sharpening into something dangerous. The first enemy unit moved. Energy, weapon raised. Finn reacted instantly, throwing a portable field emitter down. A pulse shield snapped into place, deflecting the blast. The fight had begun, but it was not balanced. It wasn't supposed to be. Yet Kalin moved. Slow at first, then faster. Not fighting like a soldier trained in war. Fighting like someone who had learned the value of every single step. Precise movement. Controlled balance. Every action grounded in the awareness that her body was no longer broken. Finn coordinated beside her, redirecting energy, disabling systems, creating openings. Together, they moved like something the palace had never seen. Not hierarchy, not command. Something worse for the invaders. A unit built on trust. Lumisphere flickered wildly. Emotional synergy exceeding predicted thresholds, it chirped. Human-alien coordination now classified as highly effective. Finn grunted mid-action. Stop analyzing and help. I am helping emotionally, it replied proudly. Kalin almost laughed even in the chaos. And that was the moment everything shifted. Because she stopped hesitating. She ran. Not perfectly. Not fast like a soldier. But she ran. And did not fall. Finn realized it instantly. Her recovery was complete, not because every nerve was healed, but because she no longer believed she was broken. That belief alone changed everything. The battle surged toward the central control core. If the invaders reached it, the palace systems would collapse completely. Kalin saw the route. Finn saw the risk. They didn't speak. They moved. Through collapsing corridors. Through flickering gravity fields. Through shattered light and burning alarms. Together. Finally, they reached the core chamber door.
Locked.
Overridden by enemy control. Finn placed his device against the panel. I can bypass it, he said. But I'll need time. Kalin stepped forward. How much time? Not enough.
A pause.
Then she placed her hand on the door. I will give you enough. Finn looked at her sharply. You're not ready for direct confrontation. She met his eyes. I walked, she said simply. Everything else is easier than that. Then she turned and faced the door and the war beyond it. Finn began the override. Behind them, footsteps approached, enemy forces closing in. Closer, closer. The door system cracked. Almost open. Kalin stood firm. Even trembling, she did not step back. Finn whispered, almost there. The enemy breached the corridor behind them. Weapons raised. Kalin exhaled and stepped forward anyway, not away from danger. Into it. The door opened. Finn grabbed her hand. Together, they entered the control core. And the moment the system saw them, everything changed. Because the Empire did not register a princess in recovery. It registered a standing sovereign. And a human who refused to let her fall again. The invasion systems hesitated.
For the first time,
Kalin spoke into the core interface, her voice steady.
Clear. Alive.
This world does not belong to those who break it, she said. It belongs to those who refuse to fall. Finn looked at her and realized something simple. She was never just recovering. She was becoming. Behind them, the invading system collapsed under counter-command protocols. Outside, the ships began to withdraw, not defeated by weapons, but by resistance they could not calculate. And in the silence that followed, Kalin stood. Finn stood beside her, and for the first time in 7 years, she did not need anything to stay upright.